yeah, I am looking to replace what's currently on the big kind of side wall in the studio space. It's kind of become apparent that I really just need to make more use of the space that's in there. So I went searching around on Pinterest and stuff and found the idea for like a giant pegboard, which I thought was really cool. I've got OSB board desks, I've got OSB board shelves where I have all the pedals on the other side of the wall, so I think it'd be nice to kind of keep it consistent with that theme. And I really like the look of OSB board anyway. I quite like that industrial utilitarian kind of feel to it. I did quickly do like a rough plan, and I think I've kind of I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm not following any instructions. I just kind of saw a couple of projects on Pinterest and thought, oh, I could have a crack at that. This I will have to do from scratch, from just like blank sheets of OSB board, and drill the holes myself. So that's going to take a while. Thankfully I can get the sheets, because I won't be able to fit full 8x4 sheets in that room, because the ceiling, floor to ceiling is only 7 feet, so it's going to have to be probably about 6.5 or something like that. But thankfully you can get the sheets cut at the hardware store, so we're going to go down to B&Q. Yeah, I've got a load of stuff, got a big list. We're going to head off and see what we can get.
So the first thing I needed to do before I cracked on with any of the actual building of the pegboard was to take down what was already on that wall. So there was the kind of nice artwork that you could see there. And then underneath we just had these crates, which I still wanted to reuse. They just had some little plants and ornaments and stuff on. And then once all that was off the wall, we had to take all the fixings out, so all the old raw plugs and screws and stuff that were holding everything in. And then I just wanted to go over and fill everything. So this is the next day where I'm just sanding everything back. I wasn't too worried about it being perfect. I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't any kind of obvious holes that you could see through, or like damaged parts of wall or whatever that you could see through the pegboard once it was all put up. And just making sure I got rid of all the dust, as much as I could anyway, before I started painting. And again, I'm just kind of slapping it on here. I'm not too worried about it matching like the texture of it being rolled on or anything. It really was just to kind of cover up the obvious holes that were there. Just give it a once over and make sure it looked kind of tidy before we put the new pegboard on. Here we are, starting on the pegboard. So what I had to do was go through and mark all the holes that I wanted to do. So I just basically marked all the way down one side, all the way down the other. And then this very convenient straight edge that we had was exactly 2 feet, which is the width that the boards were cut to, and it worked out perfectly. So I could draw some nice straight lines right the way across. And this is what it looks like. So once the grid system's all in place, you know exactly where you need to drill your holes. And you can see me starting the drilling here. Obviously you can see the boards are bending because they're only 12 mil. I would have liked to have had a nice time lapse of me drilling all the holes, but my phone kept falling over. So just, you get the idea. And there you have it. That's what it looks like when the first sheet was done. I drilled them 2 at a time so that they're kind of doubled up there, you can see. So thankfully I didn't have to drill all 4 sheets separately. It also just gave it a little bit more sturdiness. There we go. 208 holes later. Oh, I'm absolutely knackered. That took forever. I'll show you here. There's well, this is the back, this is the front of the other side. So they came out pretty well. I have a feeling that the dowels that I bought, the cheap ones, the 28mm, even though this is a 28mm hole, or the 28mm bit, I have a feeling that this drills the hole slightly too big, just because it moves around, and also because it's just like chipboard. I feel like I think it just kind of blows out the hole slightly. So what I have ordered is some 30mm diameter maple dowels, just from a wood supplier, from like a carpentry supply place. So now everything is brought upstairs. Started marking out the holes for the battens. And here we are drilling through, and then I also countersunk all of the holes so that the heads of the screws that are going into the wall would go flush or just past flush and wouldn't get in the way of, you know, the board sitting on top. And then what I did was just mark out a center line so that I knew roughly where the middle hole needed to go. So obviously I was being a little bit optimistic there in that I cannot hold level an 8-foot piece of wood that is fairly chunky and fairly heavy with one hand and drill pilot holes in the other. Maisie is busy looking after little one downstairs, so I'm calling in the cavalry, which is, in this case, will either be my mother or my father. And then it's just a very quick time lapse of us putting the whole thing together, so you can't really, you know, see the top one there, but I mean, you get what we're doing. We're just drilling pilot holes in the wall, putting the raw plugs in the wall, and then just driving the screws home. So they're going right the way through the batten, and then right the way to the end of the raw plug, and they're well and truly in place. So we did 7 screws in the top. I had drilled 7 holes in the other 2 battens, but we only ended up using 3 in the middle and bottom ones, because most of the weight's being taken by the top one, and it was obvious that just putting the 3 in was more than enough to hold the middle and bottom ones in place. It really wasn't going anywhere. And then obviously the whole time we're just making sure that the battens are actually lined up vertically so that the sheets go on square. Nothing is square in this house completely. It's an old house, so, you know, floors are wonky, skirting boards are wonky, the ceiling's slightly off, so trying to get it to look perfectly level is always going to be a bit of a challenge, but I think we made it work quite well. After Dad had gone, I just had to go through and make sure that I'd put all the screws in properly. You'll see here that I actually missed a couple of the holes, but I won't mention that in the video because I didn't notice until after I'd filmed this, but I did go back and drill those just manually afterwards. It's up. Not too bad, really. Looks pretty good. I'm struggling to get it all in because I've not really got the headroom, because obviously it's a loft conversion, so it's a sloped wall on one side. Yeah, it's absolutely massive, but it's exactly what I wanted. So the idea being that the angle you guys have been seeing, kind of for that is kind of like, you know, from over here, that's sat on top of those shelves over there, and that's what I'm hoping I can just kind of place the camera on a little tripod and then shoot against it. And then I just had to go through and rub off as best as I could all of the pencil markings that were all over the place. What I'm planning on doing now is I've brought those dowels up. I don't think they're going to fit. I'm going to cut one. I think there's going to be too much kind of slack in here still, so we'll see if they fit. So I've cut a couple of lengths of the dowel, just to see. I was kind of right, like you can see, it's kind of, this should ideally be fitting in a bit, you know, kind of snug like that. 1 mil maybe, something like that. So what I decided to do was, even though I knew I couldn't use these dowels, I thought if I just cut them to length, it would allow me to basically template where I wanted the shelves to go, because I knew the new dowels that were coming would be too big for the holes, and I'd have to kind of bore those out. So it just meant that I could figure out exactly where I wanted to go, and I knew exactly what holes I needed to bore out afterwards. And then for some reason I decided to sand all of them down. I don't know why I did this. This was a massive waste of time really, because like I said, I didn't end up using these at all. And then the last big thing left to do really was to cut the shelves. I knew I wanted one big one right across the top and then smaller shelves kind of coming down off of that. So I just cut one of the boards in half and then cut the other one into quarters. So I've roughly cut out the shelves and put them where I think I want them. Obviously these are on the dowels that don't fit, so you can see obviously like up here, because they're small, some of them are a bit wonky, so I'm literally not even touching there. And these shelves are obviously massively on the piss, most of them, which is not safe, which is why I need the other dowels that are going to sit in there nice and up high and hold everything level. So we're going to get some graphics, maybe the logo, the little pedal illustrations that I use on the boxes and stuff, just to kind of, you know, make this look a little bit fancy. So I just created all these graphics in Illustrator, sent them to Maisie, and then her little Cricut machine, which is basically like a die cutter. You can put in sheets of self-adhesive vinyl, and it will cut them out like a die cutter, and then you've got kind of your own personalised graphics. These were a real pig to get on because the board is not a perfectly kind of smooth surface. It'd be much easier on on a plain wall, for example. But yeah, it was a kind of a real pain to get off, especially not so much on this graphic, but on the pedal ones you'll see me put on, the ones you'll see in a minute. They've got much finer lines, and they constantly want to kind of pull off as you're trying to peel the backing paper off. Here are the new dowels. I ordered some ash, not for any other reason than these were the cheapest ones I could find in 30mm. I'm not putting a dowel in every single hole, so what I'm going to do is I've got some sanding kind of Dremel bits coming for the drill that will just allow me to kind of drill inside the hole and just kind of bore it out a little bit more. There we go, it worked. The little sanding router bits arrived, and here it is. So this stuff is a lot easier to cut through, but it doesn't tear out anywhere near as much as the pine does. You can see, you can see it's never going to be perfect, because look how bowed that's touching both ends, and you can see how bowed these bits of pine are here. You can literally see how bowed they are in the middle. But I think this is actually probably, I don't know, I could lay it either way, it doesn't really matter, I suppose. That looks a bit weird that way, because you can see it kind of bending up. I think I actually prefer it kind of like that. The stuff's going to be mostly lent, it's going to be lent on the back side anyway, so fits a hell of a lot better. Much happier with this. It goes right the way through to the wall, and they hold completely still. They're not moving at all. They're like more than secure. This is like super solid now, so yeah. Just got to do this for like another 16 holes, I guess. Right, there we are. They're all cut, and all the shelves are up there. Like I said, some of them aren't resting perfectly across both, because the wood, not the dowels, but the shelves themselves, the wood that is cut from, they're just completely warped. So once stuff's on top and it's kind of holding it down, it'd be fine. So I cut all the dowels to 20 centimeters like I did before. I had a few left over, so I've cut out these little chode ones that are like, I just cut them in half again, so they're 10 centimeters. And yeah, it's all kind of coming together. So I've had a tidy up all the tools in there. I don't know what I'm going to do with all the pine dowels. Like I said, they're all right for hanging other bits on, but I don't think I'm going to really need it. So if nothing else, then it's just an expensive bit of kindling for the log burner downstairs. I think now I'm going to try and get as much of this other stuff on as I can, and see where we're at. I think there's going to be some space for some more graphics, so I might get Maisie to print me out a couple more. And there you go. There it is. Really happy with how this is looking. Really, I've only very quickly kind of done the lighting, so forgive it's probably not perfect, and I'll probably tweak it over time. But I think overall I think it's framed pretty well. I think maybe I could have done with putting something in this corner, but I didn't really plan specifically where I wanted stuff to frame it. But maybe I should have. But you know, over time, I can always just add. That's the beauty of stuff like this, is now that it's all up, it's super easy to add stuff. So maybe I'll put another shelf in here or another graphic in this corner or whatever. So over time, I'll tweak things, I'm sure. And it's definitely given me much more kind of freedom to move around, and a lot more space, and it's much easier to light because it's a nice kind of light backdrop as well. So yeah, thank you for watching. Hopefully you have enjoyed it, and if you've stayed around for this long, thank you. I know it's been a long one and not really specifically pedal related, but kind of in the ballpark of it, because, you know, of what it's being used for. As always, if you want to see what we're up to on more of a daily basis, head over to our social media channels on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. And saying this for the first time on our brand new backdrop, we'll see you next time.